I'm Dr. Alexandra Jones, founder and Chief Executive Officer of Archaeology in the Community. Today, we're going to be reviewing some archaeology scenes in films. This is Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, directed by Steven Spielberg. In this famous scene, Indiana Jones tries to capture an ancient artifact by replacing it with a heavy bag of sand. Depending on the site, different cultures and the people who have created what was at that time a location have created different things or different mechanisms that they've put in place in order to preserve it. So if we think about China, the emperor, when he built his tomb, he actually built thousands of soldiers. And the idea was that in death, these soldiers would actually protect him from anybody trying to come and desecrate or disturb his tomb. So you do see things historically that have been done, but nothing to the extent in which we see in this film. So while this is a fun movie and it looks awesome and amazing and all of us would like to have adventures like this film is actually not rooted in any fact. This is not what would take place at an archaeological site today. What's actually taking place is unethical and something that none of us would engage in. This is Tomb Raider. In this clip, Lara Croft convinces Powell to give her the key, which will unlock a hidden treasure.
Why would I try and cheat you out of anything now? I need you to get the piece so I can steal it from you later.
One of the things that I would like to put in context immediately is a Tomb Raider is a thief. This is somebody who goes in and actually steals artifacts instead of preserves them. This is the exact opposite of an archaeologist. So one of the problems initially is the fact that people often conflate and confuse the fact that Lara Croft is actually an archaeologist. So as we go through the scenes in this clip, what you actually see are two factions of thieves fighting against each other for artifacts. So in this scene, what I'm actually saying is an intricate ancient lock system in which people are using clues to try and essentially break in the same level as a bank robber, break into this lock system in order to get at these valuable artifacts. They actually are not preserving anything, they're damaging everything in the process. And on very base level, this is against everything that archaeologists do. We wouldn't go in and basically set off ancient lock system, which would in turn destroy all the artifacts that we really want to study and preserve, because it gives us a lot of insight about this culture and how they actually kept and protected the things that were important to them. The film directors took a lot of liberties with how intricate they made the lock system. People did make systems to protect the things that they loved and found important and that they revered in their different societies. However, I've never seen anything quite this intricate where you have water or a liquid kind of disappearing, melting into something else. So this is a great movie, something very entertaining and wonderful to watch. However, I've never seen anything like this in real life at an archaeological scene or just in general. This is Mummy Returns, directed by Stephen Sommers. In this clip, the O'Connells are chased by waves of water from the Nile after Evelyn disturbs the bracelet of Anubis. So this clip is a total ode to why you don't have your child at work. You have a child who's in a very dangerous space, who is allowed to roam free, and then what ends up happening is that he destroys the remnants of a whole civilization and a culture in the course of being unattended. Two scientists are going out. They're discovering an artifact. Written on the box that the artifact is contained within is an actual inscription warning people a protection. This is the people from the past making their claim that this shouldn't be moved. This is important to them. It should be left. It's saying death will come to this person. And then what you still see is people taking and kind of running off with this. And as a result, everything kind of bursting, the Nile coming in. Now, mind you, this is a movie. So this is a far-fetched version of what would take place in current day. Typically, what you see at an archaeological site might be warnings. You may even see objects entombed in multiple rooms behind or in hidden rooms, but nothing to the extent of the Nile bursting through a room and flooding. So in this scene, it's pretty awesome to see that the protection that this particular society and community created for the artifacts that they found important. However, there is a lot of liberties taken in this film. Traditionally, you would never see something as kind of crazy as the Nile busting in and killing people like you see in this scene. This is Encino Man, directed by Les Mayfield. In this clip, David and Stoney find a pre-contact bull while digging their swimming pool in the backyard.
Dude, I know what this is, bro. What is it? It's a Mysterium bowl. No way! Hey, come on, David, be careful with that. What's a Mysterium bowl?
So this clip is pretty funny, but there are a couple things that stand out as an archaeologist. The first thing, they uncover this pre-contact artifact and instantly are able to identify it.
Wait, this is kind of like prehistoric Tupperware, bro.
One of the cool things I will say about today's society is because we have so many documentaries and so many shows and so many people go to museums now, there is a small chance that someone would be able to identify this artifact. The one thing that needs to be done is once they've identified it, they immediately need to put it into a safe space, stop handling it, and contact the state archaeologist. I always tell my students, as soon as you know that you found an artifact, you need to contact the proper authorities. So this clip is not so far-fetched in the fact that someone is digging in their backyard and actually finding artifacts. Every city, every town is built on a past civilization, a past town, a past village. So we're always able to find elements of archaeology in our hidden past in our backyard. But what is important is that we understand our role as a collective community, and that when we do find elements of the past and the people who come before us, that we do the proper thing in preserving it and contacting your local archaeologists so that we may be able to obtain and figure out what this piece of history can tell us about our shared past. This is Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade.
Archaeology is the search for fact, not truth.
Indiana Jones starts out his lecture by telling his students that archaeology is fact, not truths. In fact, we do look for facts. One of the things that you have to be careful with is when you're talking truths, oftentimes you go into people's belief systems, and depending on who's in power, who's at the top of politics, truths can vary from group to group and class to socioeconomic class. Facts, however, are things that everybody agrees took place and actually happened. So being a Dr. Jones viewing another Dr. Jones in an academic setting, this is one of the more realistic scenes that you will see, is that we do in fact lecture, we do talk about the facts, we do highlight all of the important aspects of different cultures. So this, I would agree, is one of the things that you would probably see most archaeologists doing who are academics.
I did it. You've got it.
So this scene is wonderful up until the point where the students actually leave the room.
This will find a place of honor in our Spanish collection.
This is when everything goes sideways, and it's kind of the Dr. Jekyll meets Mr. Hyde moment of archaeology. We don't keep artifacts that we just looted from a site in our desk. We don't give artifacts over for purchase, and it's even kind of hinted at it's illegal in the fact that he's asking for an honorarium.
Discuss my honorarium over dinner and champagne tonight.
An honorarium is normally something given as like a gift to a lecturer or somebody that's speaking. So the fact that there's no bill of sale, there's nothing specifically taking place, and they're doing the actual deal over dinner and champagne, it's kind of a dead giveaway that something definitely illegal is taking place. This is The Mummy. In this clip, Jonathan presents his sister Evelyn, a librarian and aspiring Egyptologist, with a box that contains a map that leads to Hamunaptra. So in watching this clip, there are a couple things I want to point out. Museums did have different standards a long time ago versus what we have now. There's still some things that are a little bit far-fetched. Torches. Having torches sprawled all throughout our room in a museum where you have priceless artifacts and artifacts that are irreplaceable, you do need light in order to see, but fire torches is kind of crazy. The other thing in thinking about this situation is that you have all of these priceless artifacts and there's no climate control going on, which means that if they're sitting in a room, humidity can get to them. If the conditions are too dry, that can also bother the artifacts. So the idea that as archaeologists, we like to preserve the past, the opposite is actually being done in this particular scene. Another thing that's kind of glaringly jumping out is you have a person who is a supposed archaeologist who's in an actual sarcophagus with a mummy. That is ridiculous. It's blatantly disrespectful. It's no regard for this particular culture. And then on top of that, he's actually playing with it. And if you notice, he slams the arm down in one scene. That's crazy. In a normal circumstance, the skeleton would have fallen apart. I mean, the skeleton would have simply fallen apart.
I have just the thing to cheer you up.
Oh no, Jonathan, not another worthless trinket. If I have to take one more piece of junk to the curator to try and sell for you.
So he's coming back from an excavation and he stole an artifact. And not only did he steal it, but he stole it to give as a gift to a loved one who on top of that happens to be a person who's in the field as well. So you have two archaeologists who are understanding of the ethical concerns, the fact that you're not supposed to be stealing, you're not supposed to be taking from other cultures, who are actively participating in this egregious act of holding on and stealing antiquities and artifacts. As they take this stolen artifact and they open it up, what they find is a map inside. And if we think about kind of going back to the Indiana Jones reference of fact versus truth.
We do not follow maps to buried treasure, and X never, ever marks the spot.
You never want to chase a map. He said X doesn't mark the spot. So thinking about this in the context of this clip and what did we learn from that is that you now are taking this map that you have no history, no added facts behind, and you're chasing behind it. We wouldn't do that. What we would do is take the information gained, compare it to other information that we've seen, and see what other information can be obtained or learned from this particular artifact, but not necessarily use it as the calling card to run off and go hop on a plane and go to another part of the world immediately. So while this is a fun franchise and the Mummy movies are amazing and awesome to watch, this is not how real archaeologists would act. This is Prometheus, directed by Ridley Scott. In this clip, we see scientists that are going out studying ancient alien civilization.
You gotta be kidding me.
One of the things that I will point out is out of many movies that have been produced, this seems to be the closest to what would take place with cave archaeology. Meaning little things like safety. The fact that she was chipping at the rock very slowly, and as she was going in, still checking it, trying to uncover an artifact, but going very slowly in your approach to it. So all of those things are very accurate. The other thing, how the archaeologists are living. Oftentimes we live very close to the site that we're doing the work, a far enough distance that we won't actually impede it with our everyday living, but the fact that it's further down mountain, it is a campsite, they are set up doing the work. All of those elements and aspects were pretty realistic. As archaeologists, when we go into different sites, most of us have been trained extensively in the culture in which we are researching.
I think they want us to come and find them.
We spend a lot of time in the library learning art patterns, learning what other people have discovered about this particular culture. So when you do uncover a site, you are able to make some initial hypothesis about the meanings behind what's being found. But normally what happens is after we've captured pictures, after we've documented it thoroughly, we go back and then based on additional research and understanding of that particular culture, we then are able to make further assertions about what's been found.
What's happening?
The floor is about to collapse.
This is The Pyramid, directed by Gregory Levasseur. In this clip, a group of archaeologists get trapped in a pyramid on a collapsing floor.
Move toward me and try not to step on the cracks.
So there's so many things wrong with this scene. First off, common sense. Why was nobody else backing out the room? That definitely seems like a run as fast as you can out of the room situation. This whole thing is a fallacy. We wouldn't do the work like this, just common sense stuff. First, you can see from the scene, it seems to be a pyramid in Egypt. You would have gotten clearance from the official archaeologists of the country, who probably would have already assessed whether or not the room, the building, the structure was stable enough to handle people inside of it. Two, you're talking about pre-research. We're talking about initial surveys. We're talking about safety precautions. All of these things would have been put in place way before you had a team of archaeologists in the room, let alone a team of archaeologists with a film crew. I mean, just what goes on in pre-production for a film show they would have assessed whether or not this is a safe space to actually film something like this. If you were to find a team who is going out without all of these precautions put in place, checking in with the government, getting permission, checking safety standards, what you're essentially falling into is not so much an archaeologist, but a treasure hunter, someone who is going out for their own benefit, who's essentially trying to steal whatever they're acquiring versus going about it in an academic, systematic fashion in which we do today. And what then ends up happening is you're prosecuted by whichever government operates or is in operation of that actual archaeological site. So in watching all these movies, they're fun, they're adventurous, it's amazing. We all love the idea of traveling to these wonderful places and uncovering treasures and everything else. But please keep in mind, this is not reality. This is not what archaeologists do. We do have a standard, we do have rules, we do have regulations, we have to abide by the law. We don't get to keep anything that we find, we don't steal it, and we definitely don't profit from it. Please check out the movies, but just keep in mind that they aren't based in fact.